Hello my friends, welcome to the coding tutorial for the game that we have been developing in this book. In this case, it is Simon Says. As you've already figured out, if you've been reading the book, the build is really very easy, but most of the chapter is dedicated to the code. So this chapter is designed to really dive deep into code, kind of combining all the strategies we've been doing so far in all the previous chapters, as well as starting to use some other features such as creating lists. So we're going to go ahead and get into this. This video will be longer than most likely the rest of the videos, and we're going to break it down into 6 sections, one for each of the code stacks, to make it easier for you so you can go to the specific parts at which you want to go. So let's go ahead and dive into this. We're going to new project like we've been doing. I'm going to call this Simon Says Code Tutorial. You can call it what you like. We're going to use word blocks like we've been doing all along, and we're going to go ahead and hit create here. Now this first code stack, this is going to be the main program. And this stack itself won't work until we start to combine some of the other stacks. But this is going to be the heart of the operation for our game. So we're going to begin with the when program starts. And the first thing that we need to do is head down to the orange variable section. And we need to create 2 variables to begin with. So we're going to select make a variable. The first one we're just going to call score. And then we're going to go up here, hit make a variable again, and we're going to make a second one called direction show. So we've got these 2 blocks here. So now we can bring over some of our variable coding blocks. And the first thing we want to do is bring this over, and we want to set our score to 0. And we're going to do the exact same thing again here, but we want to make sure that this time it's for direction show, also set to 0. The next step is we want to go to our purple light section and we want to turn on the smiley face. And so we're going to bring this turn on block over, and we're just going to keep this on until we trigger a new display. And we're going to keep the smiley face that's already been created. If you want to design your own, go for it, but we'll stick with the smiley face because it works well for this program. Next up, we're going to go down to control, and we're going to put a 2-second wait block in here. So this is just giving the code time to get things reset. It's going to show the smiley face for 2 seconds. This so the player is getting prompt to know that the game is about to begin. Now, we just created 2 variables. We actually need to go back to variables here. We're going to create a third one now. So we're going to go to variables, and then up here to make a variable. And we're going to call this one charge. Charge is going to signal a code that's going to play some music. And we want to have this code trigger and play this song to begin with. So we're going to go and bring the set charge, and we're automatically going to default at the beginning here to 1. And you'll see here in just a little bit that this will actually trigger the charge block to take off. And so these are little kind of decision markers, little flags along the way that we can make decisions using 1s and 0s. So now that we have that in place, we're going to go back up to light here. And we're going to use a write block this time. So the smiley face has been on. We got everything set up. Reset, smiley face, playing the music. And now we want to say, are you ready? This is going to signal to the player that the game is about to begin. So we're just going to add another wait block for 2 seconds just to make sure that that is displayed all the way and everything is ready to go. Here now is something else that we're going to do that we haven't done before. And this time we are going to be making a list. And this is found under the variables section. We're not going to click make a variable. We're going to come down here to the make a list. And this new list is going to be called colors to remember. And this is going to keep track of our game sequence as we go through. And actually, as we think about this, we're going to go through, and I've kept it colors to remember. In my brain, it makes sense what Simon Says. Simon Says is typically colors. But in actuality, since we can't trigger the different colors of the LEDs, what we're really doing is positions to remember. But it'll work. So if you're wondering why colors to remember, just in my brain makes sense as I was building out this code. We're going to head now to control, and we're going to add a forever loop block right underneath there. And so now the game, everything we put in here is going to be triggered within the game until the player makes the wrong decision and the game comes to an end. So we've got a couple things in place here, but we got to go through now and get some things established. So let's go back to our variables block. You can see that we've got charge, direction, show, and score. We are going to need another variable, and we're going to call this one count. And we're going to make one more variable called color selected. We'll explain these here in just a second. What we want to do first in this forever block is set the count to 1. So we're going to hit this charge, we're going to change it to count and make it 1. So that's going to identify, here we are at level 1 here. Then we're going to put in another set block. As opposed to charge, we're going to change this to color selected. And this is going to allow the Intelligent Hub to make random decisions on what position to display next. So the way we do that is we're going to bring an operator block, and we're going to pick this random, and we're going to choose from 1 to 4. We've got up, down, right, and left. So count is at 1, color selected is going to be randomly chosen each time we go through a level, adding to the complexity of the game. We're going to go back to variables again, and this time we need to add these items to a list. So there's this add thing to colors to remember. We are going to bring in here, add color selected. All right, so whatever is chosen. And we're going to add this to this list of colors to remember. And you're going to see when you play the game, if you keep this open, you'll see the sequence of 1, 2, 3, and 4 being recorded here. Now within that, once we got that set up, we want to put in yet another kind of loop block, a repeat block this time. So under controls, we're going to bring over repeat right inside here. And this one, we're going to be using the list. And so we're going to go to variables, and we're going to look for, here we go, the length of colors to remember. And we actually, so we're going to head to the control section, and we're going to bring in a repeat block. And in that repeat block, we're going to go ahead and go to the variable list here and look for the list block called item, called length of colors to remember. Okay, so next we're going to put in here a repeat block. So we're going to go ahead and drag this in, this forever loop. Where the 10 is, we're going to replace that with the variable block down under list. And the one we're going to add here is the length of colors to remember. And this is going to just keep working through and then activating the game level to trigger and wait for the player to go ahead and begin the game here. And so, or enter their sequence of code. So the way we're going to do that is we're going to come down here and we're going to add a broadcast block, which we have used in some previous chapters, but we're going to use the broadcast and wait. So we're going to go here, and instead of an actual message, we're going to be very specific with this. So we're going to bounce back to variables here, and we're going to look for the item of colors to remember. And instead of a certain number in here, we're going to use the variable count. There we go. All right. Once we've got that established, we're going to have to put in a few more sections of code within this main block. So underneath this repeat, we're going to come back to set, and we're going to set count to 1. All right. And after we do that, we are then going to go to the light, and we're going to write here, go. This is going to indicate to the player it's their turn to copy the sequence. So this whole section here, the intelligent hub is randomly selecting a side, up, down, right, or left, keeping track of that, and then it's going to wait for the player to go ahead and go and enter the sequence here. So the way we finish out the rest of this, now that this is indicated on the Intelligent Hub's matrix to go ahead and input the solution that the player must enter, we're going to go here to control. We're going to add a repeat, and we're going to go back to our variables into this list section for the length of colors to remember. And then we're going to use these set blocks. So you can see we're using a lot of these variables and lists in this main part, and it'll all come together when it's all said and done. We're going to bring the first one, and we're going to make this direction show, and we're going to set this to 1, and then we're going to make another one here called color selected, and we're going to keep that at 0. Now what we're going to put in here is a wait until block. So it's going to go here, we're going to add this in, and we're going to put in an operator of greater than. And it's going to wait until the variable color selected is greater than 0. And while that's going, we're going to put in an if statement. And so if, and this is where it starts to get really, really fun. Here we go. As you can start to see, we get more complex. This is where some text coding like Python, the more you understand that, can actually make this a lot easier to do. But for now, we're going to put in here this green operator block of a not, and we're also going to put in within that an equal operator block. And what we're going to put in here is color selected for the first element right here. And for this part where it says 100, we're going to put in the item of colors to remember. And that 1 is going to be count. And then underneath that, we are now going to set the score to the length of colors to remember. So we're going to move this from charge to score. And we're going to broadcast game over. A new message, game over. So this is basically checking, and if it's not equal to the sequence, it's then going to capture the score and you're going to trigger that it's the end of the game. Basically here is if you press the wrong sequence of the code and it's not right, it's going to kick you out of the game and the game is going to end. Woo! So that's a lot within this forever block. We've got just a couple other things here that we need to add, and then we're going to be all done. If we actually go through all this and we get it correct, we want to celebrate that with noise, and that way it lets the player know that they have done well, not just looking for visual cues. So we're going to bring in another variable block, and we're going to add it underneath all that, but still within the forever loop. So let me go ahead and zoom this in here a little bit so you can see a little bit better. There we go. And we're going to make this charge. We're going to trigger the charge song by making that 1. And then our light, we are going to bring this top one over. So while the music's playing, it'll also give you a smiley face that you have done well. And that, my friends, is the main stack for Simon Says. So let's go ahead and get into the second stack. Okay, so the second stack is one that's going to help us display the images for the player direction. So to do that, I'm going to go ahead and just kind of move this off to the side here. The first thing we want to do is get another prompt here. So we're going to go to events and we're going to bring in the when block. There we go, it's right there. And in here we want to use a green operator block of equal. So when our variable direction show equals 1. So we're turning this on and off because one of the things that we have to think about is as we're moving the intelligent hub, we don't always want our movement to be showing on the screen. So we're using these flags of 1s and 0s to turn this on and off. So like when the intelligent hub is showing you the sequence, you don't want your movement of the intelligent hub to impact that. So we're using 1s and 0s. So you can see now we have direction show as 1, but earlier we will have some other direction shows that will be set at 0 as well. And I'll show you that here in just a minute. It's right here at the top of this program. At first, it doesn't allow us to do this, and we'll actually deactivate it in different parts of the program. So we're going to bring in here a repeat until block, and we're going to go ahead and drag that over right underneath. And again, we're going to use an operator block, and we're going to bring this equal sign over, and we're going to say this is going to stay on until direction show equals 0. And once direction show has been changed to 0, this is all going to kick out. This repeat until block will kick out of the loop and it won't display this anymore. So let's get these things displayed. We're going to go here to our control and bring in an if block. And if our operator of greater than, and this time we're going to be using the gyroscope, the roll and the pitch angles of the gyroscope that's built into the intelligent hub, and just kind of give it a leeway here of when it can detect. And you can play with these numbers here a little bit if you want it more sensitive or less sensitive. If the roll, so we're going to look here, we can see this pitch angle, so we're going to change this to roll. We'll use this drop down menu. If roll angle is greater than 10, we want to show the right side. And so the way we're going to do that is turn on a right block, and we're going to just turn it on. So we're going to bring this over, and we're going to make just 2 bars on the right side. There we go. So it's going to show on the right. And we can actually just duplicate this if block and bring it in because we'll use this greater than angle. But this time instead of roll, we're going to use pitch. And this will actually then be for the bottom. So we'll go ahead and clear that out. Now, we need to get the other sides, the right or the left and the top. So we're going to go back to if. I'm actually going to slide this just right in between here in just a second. Actually, I'll keep it off to the side for now. And we're going to bring over, this time, a less than operator block. If our roll, right here, roll angle is less than -10, we want to display to the left. So we're going to turn on the lights. We're going to change this here, turn these bars on and everything else off. And if you'd rather make these arrows, by all means go for it. Whatever suits your fancy here. And I'm going to duplicate this again, but this time just change it from roll to pitch using the same numbers, but this time the pitch is going to be for up. And so I'm going to go ahead and change these LEDs accordingly. And then I just like to have my rolls together and my angles together. So this will display, depending on how you tilt the intelligent hub, right, left, down, and up, based on how you move it, as long as direction show is equal to 1. And when direction show has been calibrated to 0, even if you tilt it, it won't display the angle. This right here is the second code stack. So let's go ahead and jump now over to the third one. Okay, so we are now ready for the third code stack. And this code stack is designed to display images and sound for the game sequence. Essentially what we're doing is we want to make sure that when the intelligent hub randomly selects up, down, right, or left, we want it to display on the intelligent hub screen. And we also need an audio noise in the event that it picks the right 2 times in a row. We've got to have a way to make sure the player understands that there are 2 in that progression. So we're going to move over here to this side of the coding canvas, and we'll probably zoom in here and move this stuff out just so you can see better. But we're going to be essentially creating 4 little mini code stacks. So while I called this code stack 3, it's actually a bundle of 4. So this is all going to be based off of a broadcast signal. And so we had over here in the main item here, this broadcast item count of colors to remember and weight. And so what's happening is this is going to broadcast out this block right here, 1, 2, 3, or 4. And when it does that, it's going to trigger one of these 4 mini code stacks. So let's go ahead and put these into play. We're going to start here with our events, and in there is a when I receive message block. So we're going to bring this over just like so. And actually what I'm going to do is I'm just going to zoom in so we can see this better, and the canvas isn't quite so messy. There we go. Okay, so this will be the same process for all 4, obviously just displaying different beeps and signals of right, left, up, and down. So we're going to head here to our light block, and we are going to go to this part here of the turn on. And when we turn this on, we want this to be for the right side. We've done this before, so we're just going to go ahead and quickly make that. We're then going to add a noise, and you can make the noises whatever you want. For now, I'm going to make a beep because the beep will play on the intelligent hub even if you're not streaming the code. So the beep will still be activated so you don't have to be tethered or streaming to a device for the noise to be working. And we'll just keep that here at beep 60 for 0.2 seconds. What I'm going to add here then is under control a wait block, and we're going to wait for half a second. This is just to make sure that the player has enough time to see the image before it clears out for the next one. So we're going to have this wait block here, and then we're going to come back up to our light block, and we're going to do this turn on, but this time we're just going to leave it blank. We're going to turn all the lights off. So for half a second, it'll show that, and then it will then remain. We'll put another wait block in here. So for a half a second, it'll stay blank before the next image shows. So over here, when we had this broadcast, it's going to trigger this broadcast count number, 1, 2, 3, or 4, and it's going to wait until that whole code stack finishes. And then it's going to come back up and repeat that process again with whatever the next code stack number is. So we need to change this message here to a new message of 1. So when it receives 1 from that count, it will play this. Now, this next part is really pretty easy. We're just going to right-click that broadcast when I receive block, and we're going to duplicate it. We're going to simply change this to a new message of 2. And for 2, we're going to change this over here to the left. And we'll just change the beat from 60. We'll just make it 62, just so I have another little turn to it, and everything else will remain the same. We'll then duplicate that again, a new message of 3. 3 is then going to be for the up. We'll make this beat 64, and we'll duplicate one final time for, you guessed it, for down. So new message for, we'll change this to down. We'll make this beat 65, and there we go. This is the third part. So now this is the section of code that will play the sequence that the Intelligent Hub is randomly selecting for each level. It's now time for the 4th section of our code stack number 4. And what this stack is going to do, this stack is programmed to help us display the player input of answers. And so we have to make sure that we have a way in which the player can input the answers to make sure those answers are then recorded to be checked against the sequence. So just like we did it in code stack number 3, we're going to have like a little mini bundle of 4 different options as we get going. You can see here when we are doing this, when we turn on direction show in code stack 2, these numbers and angles to display these elements of right, left, up, and down. So now what we want to do is basically kind of use a similar structure, but we need to add the right button press so that the Intelligent Hub only records when we press a button. So I'm going to scroll down here to this next section of this code, blacking out the rest here. And how we're going to start this section is we're going to begin with a when block. And we're going to add a green operator and block in here because we're going to be looking for 2 inputs in order for the player input to be recorded and checked against the system here. So the first thing that we're going to do is the greater than block. And we've done this before in that code stack 2, but we'll just do it again here together just to go through it. And we're going to add, in this case, this same block that we used before of this pitch angle. We're actually going to make this roll, and we're going to make this 10. It's the same thing we did before in code stack 2. And the other part of the and to the right, this element we're going to add a right button press. So I'm going to bring this block over. And if you prefer left, go by all means, keep it. But I like the right because I'm right-handed, and there we go. So when the roll angle is greater than 10 and the right button is pressed, what do we want it to do? We want it to beep, just like we did before. So we know that this is going to be 60 for point 2. And then our variable, we're going to bring over set color selected to 1. Now you might be asking, how come you don't have an image here? Well, that is what this code stack is doing right here. It's going to be showing, as you move as a player, the Intelligent Hub, the angle, and then when you press the right button, then it's going to beep to indicate that that's been selected. So we will just duplicate this again, but this time, the other greater than 10 we need to do for pitch. So we'll bring pitch here. All right. And we want this to be beep 65. And this is actually option number 4. If you remember, it's just easy to duplicate, but I like to keep my rolls and pitches together. So I'll probably just move this down for this angle here. We're going to duplicate again, but this time we got to remove this chunk out because we don't need the greater than, we actually need the less than angle. So I'm going to go ahead and grab that from our operator block and stick that in there. We can bring over this roll again, get rid of this bad boy, and we're just going to make this, as you remember before, a -10. This is our second option, so this will be beep 62, and we'll make sure this is color selected too. And then we will duplicate this one. We'll be ready to rock and roll. I like to keep these in the same order as the rest of my code. So I'm going to bring this down here. This is going to be, oh, I got these confused here, didn't I? There we go. This is going to be pitch angle less than -10, beep 64, and color selected to 3. And so now we've got our 4 choices as the player inputs. It tilts the intelligent hub to forward, backward, right or left, or up, down. And they press the right button. Now this beep will go, and it'll then check the sequence for the color selection code block that we have for that variable. Code Stack 5 is the sequence of just playing some music. And actually, you'll probably identify this from one of the greatest old school Nintendo games ever of Super Mario Brothers. And I thought it's a positive way of letting you know that you did your best, but your game is now over. We're going to use a broadcast signal. If you remember in our first code stack, we have a broadcast. If you're not correct in your sequence that you've inputted, it's going to lock in a score. It's going to broadcast game over. So when that happens, we want to play this song to let you know. So we're going to bring over this when I receive message. And we're actually going to highlight, it's already in the system as game over. Now, one thing we're going to put in here that a block we haven't used before is we're going to stop all the other stacks except for this one. So the intelligent hub, as you move it, isn't going to show your direction. Nothing else is going to happen. All those stacks will end while we play our song. And so as we begin here, we're going to go to music. And we're going to first start off by setting our tempo. You can speed it up or slow it down to your liking. I like the 110. I'm going to set the instrument, so another music block, and I like the organ. Again, you can choose what you'd like. You can make your own song if you wish. And now we're going to start playing a bunch of notes. And so I'm not going to walk through and verbally explain each one here. I will just type them in as we go so you can follow along. We got 64 for a quarter beat, and we're going to just essentially be duplicating these. We got 64, and then we've got a 60, and then we need to put in a rest, and then we're going to play a note again. This will be note 57. You may be asking, well, how did I figure this out? I literally just looked for sheet music of the music, and I just looked for the notes and started to plug them in. I'm not real smart when it comes to reading music, but I know enough to be able to convert it over. You could just play an MP3 file and load up your own audio sounds, but I thought this would be kind of cool just for you to see how you can kind of create your own music as well. So this is going to be a rest for 0.75. And then we're going to play a note, 64. And then we're going to add a repeat block here just to clean up the code so it's not quite so long. It's already long enough here. But we are going to continue to add some more notes here. And then we've got a rest, and then we got a note 60, we got 64, we got a rest, play note 67, rest, and then we got another play note of note 55, and then a rest for 0.75. And then we're going to display the score. So we're going to write score, and then we'll actually then play or write the actual score using the variable score. So then we'll drag the score variable over, just like that. And that should work. Now the other thing that we have here is this one other note of music here. And this is the last and final stack. This is the note if you get things correct. And so we'll go ahead and play this as well. And so we're going to put in here a when block. There we go. When operator. And this time, when charge is equal to 1. So when we activate the charge from our main sequence. And in this one, we're going to set the tempo to 70. We're going to set the instrument to organ as well. And then we're going to go ahead and play our notes here as we get going. Play note 50 for 0.15. We're going to rest for 0.1. Play note 53. 0.15. Another rest. Need to make these 0.01, excuse me. Then another play note. This will be note 57. And this is 0.15. Another rest. Play note 60. This is going to be for 0.3. Another rest. These are kind of more fine-tuned. Play note 57. 0.2. Another rest. 0.01. And then another note 60 for 0.7. And then once it plays that, we're going to set charge back to 0, which will deactivate this from playing until it's triggered again. And there you have it, my friends. There is all the code in our code tutorial. Here's our 2 songs. All right, we got 2 song stacks here. We got right here of user input, the intelligent hub input, what happens when we tilt the intelligent hub, and the main stack right there. All right, my friends, I can't wait to see what you create. If you make new music, create a different game, can you create like a Bop It and incorporate some sensors, things of that nature? Can you make the actual build, which was very, very simple and minimal, even more awesome? Could you make it wearable? Could you do other things? Could you make it like a tabletop game? So whatever you create, make sure you share so we can all learn from you and celebrate your genius. And as always, my friends, remember,